My name is Reann and I ended up at CrossRoads about 9 months ago. My family and I decided that we should find a church. And my husband actually did some work for a guy who attended CrossRoads, and he raved about it, said it was amazing. So here we are. I grew up in a secluded farmhouse out of town in a non-Christian home. I don't have Christian parents. The Holy Spirit kind of nudged me through a Christian aunt who lived nearby, and she would come and pick me up every Sunday and take me into our evangelical church in our small town. We have about 1,000 people in my hometown. I had a cousin who chose to join me, and she was a year older than me, and she joined me in that journey, and we would have sleepovers and learn new prayers. She taught me the Lord's Prayer, and everything was great. I would bring my Bible to school. In grade 1, I would try to evangelize any and all the children who would hear me. In my early adolescent years, there was a series of events that occurred that kind of pulled me away from that. My church closed. My parents went through an ugly divorce, and my cousin was killed in an accident. And my dad moved us into town just down from the school because he had to work long hours as a single parent, so we could still get to school. And my home was very angry, and I began to really question and doubt that my God was real, that he was looking out for me, and I kind of chose to walk away from that completely. By the time I was 16, I decided I was going to homeschool myself so that I could work full-time, so that I could have a vehicle. I eventually ended up living in essentially a shack, and by the time I was in my late teens, early 20s, I had walked so far in the wrong direction. That's where I like to bring in my rubber band theory, is because during that time I made just a pile of bad decisions. I perceived a bad situation and I got out of it by means of an even worse situation. When we're initially walking away from God, the rubber band is loose. We had lots of elasticity. We can walk and walk and walk. And that's how I compare myself to Jonah when he was called to go for God, and he went the opposite direction, went to Joppa and realized there's a ship headed for Tarshish, and that's where I'm going to go. That's convenient. That wasn't his work. That wasn't the work of God. That was the work of the enemy, giving him a way out. And he did that a lot for me too. The enemy provided me with lots of ways out. And eventually I was so far, I had stretched the rubber band to its capacity, and I woke up one day and I realized that I have no idea even where I am or who I am or what I'm going to do with my life. It's a disaster. I could either keep on trying to walk against the resistance, or I could brace for impact of the snapback. Our God doesn't move. And so even though I had walked so far in the wrong direction, that he was still with me. And he sent me halfway across the province with a suitcase. I had no savings. I had nothing of any value. And I was completely estranged from my family by this time. And so when I moved to Central Alberta, I actually, by the grace of God, landed a entry-level accounting position. So I was able to get a place and save up a little bit. Then after about a year and a half, 2 years there, they decided to downsize, so they cut half the staff. And I was a newbie, so I got cut. And then again, God showed me grace, and an accountant that worked there hired me to work part-time at her private practice. Pretty much when I decided I'm in the wrong place in my life, and I had chose to walk the opposite direction and kind of follow God's lead and go where I was called, everything in my life started changing around. God led me to a wonderful, loving husband and blessed me with a beautiful family and a beautiful home. And I have a job now that I value. We serve a God who never stops working, even when we don't see it.